All right, welcome to Saturday's Warrior. We're here to do our Week 14, the championship week picks, as well as look at how we think the New Year's 6 Bowls are going to play out. And so, with me, as always, for our picks, I got Adam with me. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, happy to. We're gonna predict the future here. Crystal ball.
As always. And before we get into that, we'll obviously take a look at last week. We did lots of picks for rivalry week, so we'll jump into that. Before anything, though, do you have a good Thanksgiving?
Great Thanksgiving. Good football. Fun weekend. Man, the rivalry games did not disappoint again and again and again, including BYU's game. Too bad we lost, but fun double overtime game there. And Iron Bowl, man, what can you say? 4th and 31 will live in history like the pick six. So cool stuff.
Great stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, love rivalry week, and especially when we get some good ones play out. So, um, including great football, we had some great other sports as well. In turn for BYU, we have women's soccer with the amazing comeback coming down
that was incredible.
down 3-0. That was one that I had. Um, we were doing family movie, putting kids down. I was keeping an eye on the score, and I was like, well, you never rule out BYU. If anyone can do, they can put up a lot of points. And so I saw that it was 3-1, went and turned it on. Somehow the app I was on was slow to load because I turned it on in time to see them score the third goal. And by that time, it was almost over. And,
Yeah,
it was really exciting at that point. And glad they were able to pull it out. Glad I didn't have to go to overtime. I wouldn't have been able to handle it. So,
yeah.
but I'm actually going to the game. Well, we have tickets to go to the championship game.
Really?
We were going to go to the semifinal because it's just
Mm-hmm.
down in Cary, North Carolina, and really not too far. And it was my dad, who's a Ute of all people, who pointed out that it wasn't that far away. I was like, yeah, let's go. But by the time we got on to get tickets, they were already 200 plus
Yeah.
for the semifinals, whereas they were, $25 for the final. So I was like, buy
Nice.
now. If we're,
Nice.
I'd rather eat that cost, or you can, try to
Yeah,
reset
yeah, you'll sell that. It's a
championship.
good
So,
investment. Cool.
uh, but try not to make too many plans because I don't want to jinx them. I
They'll
feel
get
like
there. It's a
you
good
feel
team.
like start making, travel arrangements and things, then you start, jinxing things. So we'll see how things go.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, also men's basketball, we'll probably be doing more things and coverage. It'll probably be a different format, but hopefully Adam can keep joining me throughout the basketball season as we break down BYU basketball and Big 12 basketball and everything that's going on. But still work out what that'll look like. Right now, I haven't been able to think that far ahead. I'm still in football mode. But,
Well, we better get to basketball mode quick because the Cougars apparently came to play this year. I think it was you and I chatting after one of these videos that there was no way they'd finish anywhere but 13th or 14th in the conference. Um, and it's been incredible what they've done so far. Just fun to watch. I don't know that they'll necessarily go dancing or that they'll make noise in the Big 12, but clearly much improved and a fun team to watch. So that's all you can ask for at this point. It's amazing to see what Pope has done this year.
yeah, well, I feel like if they are able to do, and it looks like they're set up to do really well with the way their schedule plays out for the rest of non-con, that once they get to conference, like if they can just pull out a few wins, that might be still enough to get into the tournament. I mean, you look at it,
Yeah,
they had 8 or 9 teams last year make it, and so the Big 12. So I really feel like, with the strength of that schedule, that really only pulling off of, I don't know how many they have to, but just a handful of wins in conference could be enough.
yeah, yeah. I agree. It could happen. And then you look at next year. You got 2 4-stars and a 5-star um, coming into the program. I mean, it's all of a sudden they could make some noise. We'll have to see if they can put it together. But fun to see them make leaps and bounds at least for this year.
Yeah. If nothing else, to be competitive in games and to, and give us something that, exciting, not just going out there and getting steamrolled in every game. So,
Yeah.
uh, speaking of which, let's get back to football. So, good deal. So let's quickly review our picks. I didn't do all the picks because we had so many out of conference. I'll quickly read over those. But our conference, we were pretty much in lockstep and spot on. I went.
We got pretty good at picking the Big 12, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah, but and good job with Iowa State. I felt like Kansas State was a better team, but I guess in rivalry game and snowy conditions, really anything could happen. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so I'll quickly run through some of these other ones. We both had Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl. We had Mizzou, Penn State, Oregon in the Civil War. We both had Michigan. We both picked Louisville to win, and they actually lost. So
Mm.
we both
Yeah, that
took a
was
hit
bad.
there. LSU, I had Purdue, you had Indiana, so I won that one. And then what's this other one? Wisconsin. Both picked Bama. We finally learned. We both had Arizona for the duel in the desert or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee, and then I picked Northwestern to counter your Illinois. So again, those lower tier Big Ten teams, I got that figured out.
Yeah.
And let's see, where was I on this? I have to read my acronyms here. I think I don't know. Anyway, that might be Rutgers. I think Rutgers and Maryland. So actually, you had me on that Big Ten game. So
There we go.
You picked UVA. I had Tech. And then UW we both had. I picked Florida. I thought maybe it might get a little crazy. FSU pulled it out. Notre Dame, Georgia, Clemson, we both had those. And then we both got UNC wrong, which was surprising. And then we both had Fresno State and got that one wrong as well. So that was a long list, but it all basically amounts to we tied here and are still both at I think it's I've got the
that's not a bad year. That's not a bad year. We'll take it.
Yeah, so I wasn't able to gain any ground on you even with all those games, but both of us boosted our overall percentage. So that was nice at the very least here. And all right, so now getting to, actually still focused on last week real quick. I don't want to delve into this too much. Maybe we'll do something else and we'll do another deeper dive or dissect the season as a whole. But what did you make of this game? Obviously we didn't become bowl eligible, so but we were so close against a ranked team, second week in a row.
Yeah, showed a lot of heart, and again, fun to watch. That's good football. I can't complain that we go into an opponent like Oklahoma State and play them in a double overtime. Fun to watch. More of the same throughout the season. Dominant in one half, no show in the other. So just consistent themes you see throughout the year. We'll see what happens next year. They've already made some changes at O-line, and so hopefully that's bolstered next year. I don't know that Retzlaff did enough to make you feel like, boy, he's the guy going into next year. And that seems to be consensus around the BYU community that we may need to visit the transfer portal again. I don't know how that's working out for us, so I'm still not incredibly optimistic about our offense next year. Even if you bring in great guys to the transfer portal, I think we've seen from not just our school but a lot of different schools, it takes time to assimilate into a new system, get all those guys to play together on the same page. Everybody looked at TCU from last year and you're like, oh yeah, you could bring in transfers and do all this great stuff, and it's tougher than it looks, right? Deion Sanders, it's not a given. So we'll see. I think BYU's got a tough road ahead, but as far as the Oklahoma State game, that was fun to watch and just love some quality football against a good opponent.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's hard because on one hand we're so disappointed, to be that close, especially to bowl eligibility, come out and have big win 2 weeks in a row on games that we were not expected to even compete in, and then to just come up short. It really hurts. It really stings, and it's disappointing. On the other hand, after having a season long, even when we were winning, of just really weird football, it was nice to see BYU come out and compete and do some things that looked really good. It was wild to me. I mean, yes, he put up 321 yards, but why did they have Bowman throwing so much? I mean, why not just hand it off? And I feel like they figured that out in the second half. And Gordon just, as anticipated, ran all over us. And I wish. Whereas BYU started doing the opposite. I felt like we were passing and we weren't holding the ball and we weren't running as much. And so, very disappointed. Felt like, the calling the onside kick and doing um,
The
uh,
fake punt.
the fake punt. Thank you. And it really showed that they were trying to, they were pulling out all the stops and they really came to play and they were going to do whatever it took to win. And I didn't see that fire in the second half. It really looked like it was
Yeah, I
slippery.
wasn't there.
It's like sand, they're just grasping onto it. And the tighter they grasp, the quicker it
Yeah.
goes.
And you just feel it. I texted my buddy halfway through the third quarter, and I said, "Well, at least we got one good half of football." And he's like, "Well, hey, we still got a lot." And you just feel it. It's just the fight is gone, and it came back in overtime a little bit, but it's just amazing. It was similar feeling last year on defense, where you just knew against some teams they were going to run 7 yards every play and bleed us dry. When the offense ran out of wind in their sails this year, you just knew it, and no matter what was going to happen, we were not going to move that ball. And not fun football to watch when that happens. But the first half was fun. Overtime was exciting. You kind of take away those nuggets and hope next year we can do a little bit better.
Did you see that BYU picked up a punter in the transfer portal?
I did.
Which makes me worried about Rico, which I already was. I mean, if he's got,
he's got to go pro. He's got the talent. It's time.
I was disappointed that he was only second team.
Yeah. That guy's got a leg.
He certainly punted enough to.
He was a workhorse. He was a workhorse punter, unfortunately.
Maybe our best player of the year.
Yeah, probably.
Not ideal, but you want to see him get recognized. So, yeah. Anyway, so maybe your boy Grimes comes back to BYU after all, and then
maybe we'll see. I feel bad for him. I think he would have turned that Baylor offense around, but obviously Aranda's job's on the line, so he's got to make some changes. And that offense was bad this year. It was a bad product on the field. In this day and age, you can't do that for a year or two. You have a very short window. I'm sure A-Rod's feeling that, where it's this is the year, and you got to put it together with probably some transfers from your offense after a year like this, trying to find the right guy at quarterback, and it's going to be tough. It's an uphill battle for us next year.
Yeah, and the coordinators and the coaching staff, it's always a scapegoat because the head coach isn't gonna blame himself, and so whether it's their fault or not, they're the first ones to go and the brunt of that. So it's disappointing, but to BYU, hopefully, we get more continuity. We learn from it. Unfortunately, a lot of the guys, I mean, that's the thing. You mentioned the transfer portal, and I've seen and listened to a lot of things saying, hey, BYU's just got to get better at bringing guys up through the system. You can't have so much turnover every year, which I completely agree with, but you have to utilize the transfer portal, especially because BYU hasn't been able to recruit at this level until now. Like, we're just now getting to the Big 12. So it's going to take time to start developing those guys, especially when many of those players are going on missions. And so it will take time, but you have to keep supplementing. Maybe it's not ideal to have, such a high percentage, but you've got to keep going to that and taking the talent when it's there. It would be ideal if they have, multiple years left of eligibility. But would you have, I wouldn't say that I regret bringing in Cravens or Vongpachan or, any of these, it's
interesting how the transfers seem to blend in really well on defense, right? Yeah. It's the offense that we looked at to say, oh, the transfer portal's not working out. It seemed to work well for our secondary. My goodness. Our linebackers looked good. Our D-line, I think Cravens had a good year. I think that D-line continues to be the weak link in that chain. We created a lot of havoc through the first half of the year, but couldn't get sacks, last in the Big 12 in a lot of measures, including sacks, last in the country in sacks, I think. It just, things like that, you need more production from the D-line. That'll be a focal point, again, for the transfer portal this next year. And so I think you can plug some dikes with the transfer portal, but you're right. If you're going to build a program long-term, you do. You got to recruit great guys, and you got to keep them in the system. You got to make them want to be here. And then you get to the point where you're just sort of plugging in a few transfers here and there, and I think that can work. But when you're as heavy on transfers as we were this year, I think we saw some of the challenges with that. But I don't think BYU had other options. I don't. I think they had to do it. I think they had to upgrade that talent level. But we're not looking at the flip side of this. With the transfer portal, a lot of guys are going to leave BYU way more than they had in the past. And what are you going to do? How do you backfill that talent when you're relying on somebody and they hit the transfer portal because they can? And these guys are 18, 22, 24 years old. They might make a decision on a whim and just and bolt. And so it's just a very dynamic time. I think you can't ignore the transfer portal, but it can't be your constant crutch either.
Yeah, no, I agree. And on a group chat, I'm on a BYU group chat. I'm on that. Someone pointed out that NC State already has 5 guys in the transfer portal, and BYU only has 1. Although we did lose his brother. Man, their names are escaping me. Anyway, in the middle of the season, but so I mean, I guess that's 2. But that's good because we lost a lot of guys, but we also brought in a lot last year.
Mm-hmm.
So. I think, it does take time, but once you start getting those guys in the system and I think, and you start building something, hopefully you see less and less of that. Let's see here. Okay. So let's move on from this. This is too painful. Let's go to the future here and get into some of our picks for this week. So like I said, we're going to do all the conference championship games for all the FBS conferences, but we also want to do Army Navy because that's actually week 15. So let's actually do this in reverse real quick and start here with this game. What is your feeling on this fun rivalry?
Army 100%. Mostly because I'm still quite frustrated at how everything was handled with Coach Niumatalolo at Navy. He was our guy. Love Coach Ken. Wasn't pleased with how that went down last year. And I feel like that program's not going to be great without him. We'll see what happens long term, but I've got Army in this one. They've been licking their chops to come after Navy, so I think they win this one comfortably.
Yeah, I do too. I think they've performed a little better against similar competition, and that's mostly what I'm basing it off of. But I love the spiteful pick there.
You bet.
All right. America's #1 conference in athletics, college athletics, Conference USA.
Liberty, no doubt. This isn't even close. Liberty continues to perform impressively year over year. I unfortunately watched one of their games last year when BYU visited. And Liberty's a great team. They'll win this one.
Yeah, I think so too. The game's at home too. But New Mexico State did just come and beat Auburn at home.
That's true. That's true.
And beat them handedly. So,
yep.
I mean,
got to give them some props.
You can't pull it off. Although, again, I still think that was planned by Auburn to get Alabama's guard down,
which worked apparently.
It did until that last play, I guess. So yeah, no, I'm with you. I think Liberty does it, and that's what Liberty got left behind. Nobody else wanted them for whatever reason, maybe financial reasons, or because life of an independent is difficult. They were set on getting to a conference, and because for whatever reasons, probably a bit of I don't know if it's the religious reasons or other aspects of the conference, but they got overlooked by the Sun Belt, also by the American, and they got saddled with this conference. And all they can do is what they're doing, which is just win and win big, week in and week out. And they can try to do essentially what Boise State did, and just kind of be on the map. And it's working so far. They're at least ranked. So if they win this, they have a shot at making a NY6 Bowl game, depending on what happens in the AAC, which we'll get to the American in a moment. So moving on here to the Pac-12. It's the last final Pac-12 game, really. Looks more like, I guess, a new Big Ten matchup. But what do you make of this rematch? Washington got the regular season at home. It was a close one, but Oregon's been playing lights out since then.
Yeah, and I've been saying this for weeks. I thought these two teams would meet in the championship, and I think Oregon's going to win. They're motivated. They're playing great football. That loss just lit a fire under them, and I think they win, and I think they win in big fashion to make a statement. If it's a close game, I would pick Washington because they can't lose close games. Every week they pull it out, but I don't think this one will be close enough. I think Oregon's going to win this one in a revenge game. Look
at this. I mean, it's not even close. And you look at the over-under. What I think is crazy, and this annoys me, and I completely agree with you, by the way. We've talked about this in other videos, and you summarized it. So I won't get into that more. But what I do think is wild is the rankings by the college football committee or playoff committee. They're saying, hey, we're not going to be like these other polls. We're not just like a win moves you up so much or down. We're going to throw it away. We're going to start fresh each week. But it's not what they do. They just like every other poll, because if they did, they would have done what every other person in America watching college football would have done, which is say Oregon is playing better than Washington. It was a super close game. It was in Seattle. And, Washington put out a close one. But looking at their body of work, I don't know how you don't say, okay, just because Washington won the head-to-head, they deserve to be ranked number 3 in the nation right now.
Yeah. I know. It's a funky system, but this will determine it. And I think they had some air cover with this. Either way, these two teams were going to play or lose an obvious one. If they didn't, they were going to play and decide it on the field.
I know, and I guess that's what they figured, is it'll all come down to this anyway, so it's not a big deal. But if they want integrity, they need to look at it and say, no, look, Oregon's playing better. We think Oregon is the better team.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you have to take the head-to-head into account, but that's one piece of the puzzle. I don't know. So I think they give it too much weight, especially considering those circumstances.
I'm gonna have to step away for 2 seconds.
Okay, sure.
All right, quick intermission.
All right, here. Well, I'll talk about this game then. This is here. I'll give him the benefit of hiding that. So in the Big 12, we got Texas and Oklahoma State. Now, this is one where, BYU, it stung, and I think the conference, many people in the conference would have liked to have seen BYU win in many regards. I think BYU's has a lot of support throughout the conference, at least from what I've seen on social media and whatnot. However, this one game, I think everybody was rooting for Oklahoma State because they did not want to see a repeat of the Red River rivalry between Texas and Oklahoma in their final years in the Big 12 before leaving to the SEC, and both of them making the conference championship game would have just been painful. So I think everybody, even if they feel bad for BYU and the way that game turned out, I think everybody is breathing a sigh of relief that we get somebody else in there other than Oklahoma. I think even if it had been Oklahoma, I still think that Texas wins that. I don't think they lose to Oklahoma a second time. And Oklahoma State coming into this game, I don't know. They obviously started off the year terribly. And then in the middle, since that Kansas State game, all the way up until their rivalry game with Oklahoma, they were just playing lights out. They just looked unstoppable and were just running over everybody and had really figured things out. And I thought from that point on, like, nothing's going to slow them down. Then a weird situation in Orlando, rainy weather, kind of a letdown game after a big win against Oklahoma in Orlando, UCF getting healthy, and it was just a kind of a perfect storm. They lost that game, and you could almost excuse it, but they didn't play great against Houston. And then it took them until the second half to kind of wake up. Took them all the way to double overtime against BYU, who struggled. Granted, they were playing better this weekend, the last couple weeks, but still they struggled all season. And for Oklahoma State to go to double overtime just with the conference championship on the line, just to eke out that win, to make it, it does not make you think that they're playing. It feels like their best football has come and gone already through the season, that they while they looked good for some time and certainly have the ability to do it, it looks like that they have definitely regressed, and I'd love to see them. All right. Sorry, Adam. Didn't mean to shut you out there.
No, that's good.
Yeah. So I just saying, they've had their ups and downs. They're definitely not playing their best football right now. Oklahoma State, that is. You think that, the way they did play in the middle of the season, that, okay, maybe, it took these games to kind of get a wake up call, and they're going up against Texas. They could come out, and I think they could do it. I just don't see it happening because I think their best bet is relying on Ollie Gordon, who is just a phenomenal player. But this is going up against a very, very stout defensive line here. And this is not the game, they need to, are going to, really be able to showcase that. I think they're going to have a hard time getting him going. On the other hand, Texas has sometimes been caught, playing with their food. And, if it comes to into the fourth quarter and it's a close game, anything could happen.
Yeah, championship games are similar to rivalry games where crazy things do happen. I like Texas in this one for the reasons you mentioned. I think the matchup favors them, right? Oklahoma State has got to rely on their run game to do it, and that's the teeth of this Texas defense that's been so strong. So I think Texas pulls this out. Really cool story having Oklahoma State get here. I'm happy they made it over Oklahoma, and that we didn't have the Oklahoma-Texas championship game.
Well, it meant BYU losing.
It did. Yep. Unfortunately, I would have loved to play upset in that, but it is nice to see him here. But I think Texas wins this.
Yeah, I'm with you. As much as I was trying to say, Oklahoma State could do it. Yeah, I think Texas as well. I'm not calling an upset on this one, although I'm going to be cheering for Oklahoma State. I guess the only good thing about Texas, if they, it's still the Big 12 brand, is if they were to somehow make it into the playoff, the conference still gets that money and they split it equally. So I know BYU's share isn't the same, but I think they're still getting a piece of that. So, but no, I'm rooting for Oklahoma State. Okay, here we are in the good old MAC. Let's get some action. Who do you got in this game?
I've got Toledo. I feel like we called this game earlier. Didn't they play each other once already? Maybe that was another Toledo game, but
it was a Toledo game, and I think they did play each other back in October.
I thought so. I'm going with Toledo. I like them. I just feel like they've got a little bit more as a program. They've been here. They've had some more recent success than Miami of Ohio. I think they can pull this out in the championship game.
Yeah, I debated going with Miami just to pick against you, but actually, maybe I will. I'm going to go with Miami here. I'll give you Toledo. Why not?
Go for it.
It hasn't worked for me so far this year, but I think first championship, maybe it will. I was going to go with Toledo. They slightly better record, kind of better against similar opponents, and obviously won the head-to-head. So, but I don't think it's a slam dunk. So,
yeah.
Mountain West. This is an interesting matchup.
How did Boise State make it in there? Fire your head coach. Have one of the worst years you've had in a long time, and here you sit in the championship game for the Mountain West Conference. I'm going with UNLV in this one. I like them as sort of an upstart. I think Boise State is still a little lost. I still think Brian Harsin is going to be announced as the next head coach at Boise State. So they'll have whoever it is will be watching this game, and maybe they'll make that announcement this week, right? They got to get past the championship game, but I just feel like Boise State's leaderless. This is going to be a tough game where they've really got to be at their best, and I think UNLV is going to take it.
Yeah, I was surprised when I looked at these two teams, and because Boise State, like you said, they fired their head coach, and that's really when they seem to turn it on, and they finished the season really strong, which is when you want to be peaking and going into this game, and so it makes you wonder. But on the other hand, I just have a little bit, this is weird to say, I have a little more confidence in UNLV than Boise State, but that's interesting about Harsin. I'd kind of seen some things talked about, but I thought it was just fan chatter. I haven't followed it closely. Does that seem legit then?
No, this is I have no legitimate sources on that, but I just found it odd that they would dismiss their head coach midseason like that. That's not really the Boise State way. Brian Harsin hasn't found a home. He's still poking around, and so it just seems like that'd be a place he can get back on his feet, prove himself before he jumps to the P5 level again. It's a total guess. There is zero credible reporting on that at this point.
And you know what? Why not? Arkansas is bringing back
right? Petrino? Bobby Petrino? Yeah. I know. Crazy times.
That. So, scandal or not or whatever, you can always make it back home. So
that's right.
Yeah, I could see that happening. All right. SEC, who we got?
Oh, I love this matchup. I'm going with Georgia because Georgia's been unbeatable for what, 30 straight games now. Um, and Alabama has been good but vulnerable all season. Georgia has not, and that may play in Alabama's favor. They're battle tested. They've had their backs against the wall. Georgia has not, and so if it's a close game, you like Alabama in it. But boy, Georgia's just still so unbeatable. I like parity. I don't like that they've been that strong. I think they'll win it all again this year, and I don't like that. But they're the money bet to win it all at this point because they've been so good. So I'm going to go with Georgia.
Something I learned this season is don't pick against Nick Saban, and I'm going to stick with it. I don't necessarily feel great about it. I do think Georgia has been playing a little better, but Alabama, has really pulled things together since, early on the season when they were struggling a bit. And, I feel like these games when Nick Saban has time to, well, I guess he doesn't have extra time for this game, but when he's, in these types of situations, I trust his coaching, and this could also go the other way and get ugly. So it'll be very interesting. But I'm gonna go with Bama in this one and see if they can pull off the upset and really make this college football playoff interesting.
That would be so great. A Washington win and a Bama victory would really make things interesting.
As long as it doesn't get Ohio State, a way to like sneak back in, I would hate that. So
right.
All right. We talked about the American before. What do you think will happen here?
This is a tough game to pick. It's interesting that SMU comes in so favored in this one because Tulane's been good all year, and I like them. I like them again to win this one, and it could be a tough game. It could be a close game. SMU is no slouch. I don't like that we have them on our non-conference slate next year playing at SMU. I think that's a bad move for BYU because that's going to be a tough game. But as much respect I have for that program, I'm going with the Green Wave.
Yeah, I was surprised because that's who I expected to pick coming into this and looking at the two teams and, just looking at similar opponents and things. I think that SMU might pull this off. Now, I love Tulane. I love their look and their uniforms and everything about it, although I love SMU's uniform too. I love this actually uniform matchup. These are two of my favorites in college football, especially considering they're not even P5 guys. So I love it. But, I think SMU might be able to go in there and ruin things for the Green Wave and getting a chance to have back-to-back New Year's Six bowl games.
The pressure's on the Green Wave for sure. The pressure's on them.
Definitely is. All right. Sorry, things are slowing down on me, but we are in the Sun Belt now. So, what's your pick here?
Man, this is a tough one because I just don't know anything about these teams.
Right.
But we're gonna go with Troy. We're gonna go with the safe bet. I'll tell you what I do know is Appalachian State is good at playing spoiler, and it's tough to pick against them in these matchups. So it wouldn't surprise me at all on Appalachian State victory, but I'm going to go with Troy.
Yeah, I'm going with Troy too. I was tempted to do that, but I felt like I was just going with the name brand with Appalachian State and not knowing much about these guys. I like you went with the safe pick. Okay, on to the Big Ten now.
Yeah, you gotta love Michigan. Harbaugh's back. They're playing with a head of steam to get into the playoff. They have been so good this year. I would love Michigan to win it all and play upset against Georgia. So I think they'll get to the playoff. I don't know that they'll win it all, but I will take them against Iowa for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Iowa's definitely had their woes, and while their defense has held them in games, I just think Michigan also has a solid defense. So Michigan all the way in that one. Go blue. And now the ACC. Now this one could get interesting.
It could, and I want Louisville. My heart is with the Louisville pick. I'm picking Florida State because of how they responded against Florida without their starter. I thought that would be the test. I really thought Florida would pull that one out, but Florida State showed up and they've got a chip on their shoulder now to prove that they're not just, they weren't just their quarterback. They're a complete team, which I don't think they are. All season I've been saying I don't think this is a playoff team. If they make the playoff, I think they're going to get absolutely trounced by any of the other three teams, because I don't think the ACC is up to par. But you know what? Florida State went undefeated. I think if you go undefeated, you should have a shot. And I think they're going to win this one against Louisville, who's just kind of played against lesser competition all year. And I think they showed it against Kentucky in that rivalry game.
Yeah, I'm also going with Florida State on this. And like you, I think last week proved a lot, although this could be one where Florida State, again, with the backup and they're coming off an emotional win, they're seeing Louisville just losing to Kentucky, maybe underestimate them. I mean, they've still been a very good team, and had some good wins this year. So I could see Louisville pulling it off, but I'm with you. I'm going with Florida State in this one. So let's see here. All right, so those are our picks, and now let's take a look real quick at what we think is going to happen in the New Year's 6 Bowl games. And so both of us had the same 4, and I think these are the same 4. And they're even contrary to some of my picks, at least for this next week. I had Bama winning. So
Georgia could still make it. You could still see this setup with Bama winning.
I guess there's a way. They probably won't be ranked number 1 though, so it would probably be different.
That's true.
Order, different matchups, but I like this one. I mean, you still get a traditional Rose Bowl type matchup. While that's still a thing. Before half the
for one more year
into the Big 12, Big 10, and just makes it an in-conference game. But these should be fun matchups.
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking forward to it. If that plays out, I tend to think it won't be that because everyone is picking those 4 teams, and there's always chaos. There's always chaos this last week of the season, so it won't be those 4 teams. But it's just hard to put anyone else in there. Whenever I slotted anyone else in those top 4, I just said it's a crapshoot. So I'm going to go with these 4. But when everybody picks it, it's not going to happen.
I know, and that's why I wanted to do something different too. But it's been a few weeks, and I wish I would have, I guess it's been weeks now that everyone's been kind of predicting this, but I feel like mid-season when I started seeing the way things were shaping out, really since the Oregon-Washington game, and we saw Oregon playing the way they were, I felt like they were getting in. I felt like Georgia was, and I felt like Michigan would. And after all that, I felt like Texas didn't have enough, that it would be Florida State if they won out, which they have so far. And so it's been kind of leaning this way, I think, for most of the season, and which is why I'm still going with it. But like you said, I feel like with everyone picking it, it's hard to believe. This is our champion who we've got going to the championship game. So as you mentioned, you want to see Michigan win it all, but you don't think they can get past Oregon?
I've been so impressed with how Oregon is playing. I think they're going to come and punch some people in the mouth unexpectedly, right? I think they're going to destroy Washington. They'll come in with a lot of momentum into the playoff. And again, looking at it and feeling like the obvious pick here is Georgia, Michigan, and that never happens. And so where's the upset going to be? It's certainly not going to be Florida State. So if we're going to pick some chaos, let's go with Oregon and see if they can beat Michigan. Michigan fell apart in the semifinal last year. Does it happen again? Probably not in the same fashion, but I could see Oregon winning a close game. They've been really, really strong. And I feel like the Pac-12 as a whole this year alone was better than the Big Ten. And so Oregon now is going to come out of that more tested, more tried, and a little bit stronger than Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan's schedule's been cake, just like a lot of Georgia's was too. But Michigan definitely had an easy schedule, especially in the front half. But I was with you. I had a similar thought process, but I got to pick Michigan. I grew up there. I'm picking, near Ann Arbor, so I'm picking the boys in maize and blue. But that game against Oregon does worry me. All right, so quickly here, we're getting a little bit long here, but run through your other bowl games.
Yeah, I mean, this is ultimate crystal ball. Who knows what's going to happen this weekend and who's going to be slotted into which one? But I was really just looking at those top teams and saying what matchups would be fun. Regionally, Oklahoma, Tulane would be really fun to have those two go head to head. Alabama, Penn State, right? Traditional powers. I would love to see Texas, Ohio State, because I feel like Texas is the better team. I've been saying it all year that Oklahoma State isn't as strong as their ranking. And excuse me, Ohio State. Thank you. Ohio State isn't as strong as their ranking, and the only way we're going to prove that now is in the bowl game. And so I'd love to see them go against someone like Texas and really see how that plays out. And then Washington and Mizzou, two teams that had really strong years, couldn't quite make the playoffs. So to me, these are just fun matchups that I'd love to see if it plays out.
Yeah, I think you have some good ones there. So I picked, well, first the Orange Bowl. I think Louisville is tied in there if Florida State does go to the playoff. I think they'd be the next highest. So I think they're, and then it would go to either Big Ten or SEC. So I'm going with Ohio State there, which I think would be hilarious for all those potential matchups and for them to be stuck against in the Orange Bowl against Louisville. So
yeah,
that would be hilarious. And then Cotton Bowl, I figured home team, you get Texas there. And then at first I was thinking Texas, Alabama, and then, it's kind of a Sugar Bowl replacement. But then I was like, no, that's a rematch. They probably won't do that. So I put another SEC team in there. And then Peach Bowl, they get Alabama close by, and then put them against UW, this would be, probably one of the most intriguing matchups, maybe even more intriguing than some of them in the actual playoff. And but then I could actually see that one also going to the Fiesta. And then, but either way, because Fiesta Bowl and Peach Bowl are kind of at the bottom of the pecking order. So that's why I figured the third place Big Ten team, and then obviously the Group of Five team breaking in. So I figured the Penn State and Tulane would get matched up. And so I don't know if I could switch that with the Peach Bowl. I could see that going either way, but I went here thinking Alabama would want to play in the Peach Bowl instead of going to the desert, and Washington will just have to deal with going cross country. So anyway, so either way, we'll see what happens. Obviously a lot depends on what goes on this weekend. This could completely be blown up entirely. So we got some fun ones ahead of us still.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good weekend.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. If you haven't, you stuck with us this long, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. As I mentioned, we'll continue doing content, even off season, some football. And if you're into college basketball, we'll be getting into that. And so we will keep putting out lots of content. So be sure to follow and like it and subscribe. Helps us a lot. Adam, thanks for joining again.
Oh,
and go Cougs.
Go Cougs.